So picture this, you start listening to a new artist and you're instantly hooked from their music. You listen to the artist in school, in your car, while working out, etc. You seem intrigued from this person. Then after learning so much about this artist, you later found out that they passed away. Despite not having any memories of hanging out with the artist, no cards they've sent you, no texts you saved, you're hurt without even knowing them. It's a different kind of grief. One marked by albums, shows, and a unique feeling of loyalty and adoration you've probably never felt before. Musical artists are some of the biggest celebrities and influencers around the world. Some even going worldwide in their staple genre. When you're popular, you're at the highest scale of people supporting you. And when you're really popular, you're one of the most loved and criticized people in the industry. But with that, they can become something so much more to help impact the world and the next generation of musicians. So when a musician has an impact on people, which could be from their music or from the type of person they are, meets their unfortunate death, it's a shock, even to people who didn't listen to their music. And when an artist dies, we often mourn their name and remember all the positive things they brought to the world, and even the influence they had on their respected genre. When we start to dive deeper into an artist's life, we can realize or make the assumption of how big of an impact the music had on other musicians or people in general. An extremely famous or notorious person, especially in a particular field, the man was a living legend. The highest scale, most influential, one of the greatest of all time. Some ways to describe someone who's a legend. Legend is often a phrase used to remember someone's greatness in music. Yes, being a legend is subjective to music tastes, but the phrase legend is already so thrown around from recent passings from musicians. Lil Peep, one of the first artists of this generation in the 2016 SoundCloud era that passed away. Now, I didn't know who Lil Peep was when he passed, so like anyone else, I looked at his discography. I went through his top tracks like Star Shopping, Better Off Dying, and Save That Shit. Hearing these tracks gave this eerie, sad boy rap, but it was catchy. So I decided to go on to find a few more gems deeper in his discography, like Ghost Girl, Sex, and Love Letter. From my knowledge of Peep, you might have just assumed I consider Peep as a legend, but this is nothing more than drugged out SoundCloud rap, something that was good for its time, but wouldn't have lasted long. Peep is a legend. Peep would have been a superstar if he was still alive. Peep would have been the S tier of artists. But he wouldn't. His death impacted the growth of his music, and his death is what got him to the peak of popularity. I don't think some of these artists should be ranked as highly as they are, and that's no disrespect towards them. That's not to say that these artists couldn't have made improvement and evolved their music over time, but unfortunately, they couldn't get the chance to prove themselves. An artist that I think could have progressed further is Pop Smoke, someone that was progressively improving, but was only able to release 2 albums before his passing. King Von is someone to point out. I'm not a huge fan of his music, I just think it's average at best, with a few hits here and there. No disrespect towards him, I haven't really dived into his whole discography like that, so I'm just putting the judgment from what I've heard. I guess another artist I didn't listen to was Nipsey Hussle. Only difference is I can respect the impact he had on music, I just didn't see the same with King Von. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that people are too quick to call someone a legend or a GOAT. Death all goes with timing. Imagine a rising artist like Fetty Wap passed away around 2016. People would be calling him the D-Rose of rap music. But it's not even about timing, because any of the artists, good or bad, would be called a legend after their passing, because music is all opinion-based. Take Lil Pump and Smokepurrp, for example. 2 artists who had a rise in the SoundCloud clout era, who blew up for their obnoxiously pointless music and their self-driven clout-chasing persona. But best believe if one of these artists died tomorrow, people would be calling them GOATs and bumping their music all the time. And I ain't trying to hear that shit. But Jivo, who do you consider a recent legend? The top person who comes to mind is XXX. X interests me because he was the first artist really trying to get a reaction out of people. People were blasting X's music because they knew how out there it was and offensive it was. X started a whole wave of the aggressive trap scene, giving a distorted sound off a cheap microphone. Something that you wouldn't think would sound good, but it did.
There she was with the blade in her hand, scars on the skin. I put your mama right on that bing, link.
This style started growing in popularity, and he was finally able to release his breakout single, Look at Me, with higher production.
Can't keep my dick in my pants.
Can't keep his dick in his pants.
She give me life, bro.
X went on to become known as the king of SoundCloud. He became the villain of the music scene. Since then, rappers have tried to play the villain, but they couldn't play it as well as X did, because for some reason, he was likable, he was human, he was himself, despite the trouble he would bring himself into. But this was just a little over 2 years prior, because over the next 2 years, he was able to evolve his music as well as the character he was. Denzel Curry explained it perfectly, that his character would change with his hair color, black and blonde being the negative angry figure with his aggressive trap music, then his gray-white hair being when he was depressed and making more of this emotional soft music, then his blue hair where he was all about positivity, bettering himself and the people around him. And with this change, his music evolved. He was a vocalist, but he wasn't. There's so many different genres you can put his music into. R&B, pop, indie, rock, lo-fi, Latin pop, punk, trap, dancehall, metal. An artist that showed he was able to experiment, but an artist that was able to experiment and succeed at it. X only had 2 years of mainstream success, and even though he was already a massive artist, I think he would have been even bigger than he is now, despite the popularity he gained after his passing. I would have loved to see him on a rock project, or even him experimenting with styles today like rage music or hyperpop. This is timeless music, so yeah, I think X is a legend. Now, a person often compared with X that died around the same time was Juice WRLD, an artist with just limitless talent who can just go in the studio without writing any lyrics and make a hit. A hit maker is the best way to describe his career. When Juice met with his passing, it was right around the same time where SoundCloud rap and emo rap were dimming down and evolving to different genres. So when his passing, he was never able to show his full potential. He was stuck in the same category as emo rap. So the question is, what if? What if he was still living and was able to experiment with his sound? Would he excelled further from his previous position? Maybe. Personally, I don't think so. With music evolving, I think it's a good comparison to put in the same discussion as Iann Dior, an artist in the same field and later experimented with punk rock. Basically, what I'm trying to say is he would be making music with MGK. So coming off as a big Juice fan, even labeled him as my second favorite artist back in 2019. Is he a legend? Maybe. Or maybe he's just a legend for his time. The main point of this video is not to undermine these musicians' legacy, because I can go on and say if an artist is a legend or not, but music is subjective. A legend can be a label for anyone who positively affected the world and left a mark. So maybe they're all legends, or they're just legends in their own way. Rather than depicting if an artist is a legend or not when they pass, it should be more important to show appreciation to these artists while they're still here, because you'll never know when they're gone.